my church youth group was having the opportunity to host the evening service, and I was excited because, I was looking forward to hopefully having the opportunity to lead the choir. When I was in school, child, I was singing solos, I was in ensembles, doing duets. Like, girl, I'm in the plays, I'm in everything. I'm very musically inclined. Before I could even plead my case as to why I wanted to essentially play choir director, the role was given to a young boy in my youth group. We're gonna call him Ted. Ted was very reluctant, and also, Ted had no rhythm, so therefore Ted couldn't keep time that well. Now, mind you, this is an independent fundamental church. Like, we are singing basic hymns, baby. It is okay, and every once in a while you may get a little. I did take it upon myself, and I was trying to help Ted, trying to help him learn to keep time, and he just was not getting it. He was frustrated, and he just was like, I don't even want to do this for real. So then I go back to the youth group leader. I'm like, Ted's not really feeling this. He's kind of reluctant about it. However, I'm in choir, I sing. I definitely feel like, I'm open and I'm willing to take on the role. And so many words, I remember the youth group leader saying to me, like, while they appreciated me trying to help, they essentially said that it would be best if Ted were to lead the choir because he's a male. What? You are literally going to let somebody that is unequipped, that you won't even consider the fact that somebody who is equipped and actually wants to do it, you're not going to consider that because I'm a girl. And that event in my life, I would come to later realize, was a little bit of the patriarchy. It was a little bit of misogyny, a little bit of that sexism. And it all happened first in church.
It's very anarchistic, to the people, right? Power to the people. All power to the people. Right on.
We are the only ones that are going to save us. What's good, y'all? It's your girl, Samaya. And I know that's a very, very personal introduction, as if, some of you may know me. However, I think some of you do. Maybe you know me from here. 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 However you know me, I still felt like, I still let you know what it is, let you know my name. My name is Samaya. That is my real name, hence Anarchist Samaya. However, if you are new here,
hi, how are you?
Starting a second channel where I talk more about my political ideas, my theory, my ideology, has been on my mind, on my heart, really, for a while. But it wasn't until recently where I was seriously like, you know what? Yeah. You know what? Hell yeah. This video could be really, really long because my upbringing is very unique and a little bit complex, and it's a big reason as to why I feel like me talking about my journey to anarchism is important. If I am able to get to anarchism, baby, I think that anybody can get to anarchism. So with that being said, I'm going to try not to harp too long on focusing on my upbringing. And I also recently posted a discussion with a good friend of mine, Dr. Quindell Jones, where we discussed how growing up with the impurity culture and the Bible Belt affected how we were able to be practical when it came to our sensuality and to our sexuality. So I will reference other videos that I will link in the description box that'll kind of give you more detailed context onto how I unpacked a lot of these things from my upbringing, but also kind of give you a little bit, just a little bit, not too much. So with no further ado, y'all, let's just get right into it, because that's what you came for. I am a former PK, preacher's kid. I grew up in church all my life, went to Christian PWIs all my life. So you're already knowing there's a lot of internalized anti-blackness. Obviously, I'm struggling with the fact that I know whiteness is the standard. I'm also dealing with respectability, growing up in a middle class, black, religious family. Years later, after finally, not being in that space anymore, we don't finally impact the ways my upbringing and a lot of the ways I was raised, the things I were taught were actually quite harmful to me, and they were impeding not only on my growth politically, but also impeding on my growth personally. And there will be more instances in my life where I would think back and recollect memories from, especially being in school, being very oftentimes the only black kid or the only black girl in the room, and hearing certain comments or bearing witness to certain things, and knowing that it was wrong, or knowing that it made me feel some type of way, knowing that it made me uncomfortable, but when you're in that space, oftentimes, especially if you're considered a token, you will kind of push those things down because you don't want to make a big deal about it. And I was somebody growing up, I was always told, oh, Samaya, you're so sensitive, or oh, Samaya, it's not that deep. And so I didn't want to be the black girl that was just super passionate and always calling out something for essentially what it was. It was just so many years of trying to assimilate and trying to fit myself into this mold that was never meant for me. Around the time I was around 14, 15 years old, and I'm essentially going through puberty, I started to have a lot of questions. And the things I was being taught as I was sitting in a pew, I just started to become very disillusioned with the things that are being taught for me from the pulpit. And ultimately realizing that I kind of did have a little bit of an issue with the way the authority functioned in my life. Hierarchy is something that shows up in many areas, and not just in the way the state functions, but for me personally, like, hierarchy showed up within Christianity. Obviously, God is at the top, and then you orient your life to follow everything under that, right? That led to me always trying to fit my life or trying to mold myself in a way where I was following this ideal. In that space, when you have questions, the questions can be seen as disrespectful, because then it's like, why are you questioning God? Why are you questioning the Bible? Or simply, this is just the way it is and you simply need to follow it. I felt like, why is this not an open space to actually ask questions? If I feel like something is off, or if I just simply don't agree with what's being said, why is it somehow wrong that me voicing this criticism or me voicing how I feel about this thing, why is that automatically being deemed as disrespectful? Or why is it being seen as me trying to make waves when, in all honesty, I'm just a young teen that's trying to get a better understanding of the world around me. Never liking the way that queerness was discussed within the church, because it was always like, this is a sin, and like, you can love the person but you hate their sin. And I always felt like, why are we talking about the way somebody just naturally loves somebody else or their preference? Why is that inherently a wrong thing? And who, first of all, decided that it was wrong for two women or two men or two that don't identify as either to love each other? I just started to ask the question, who told you that?
Who said that? Who said that? Who said that? Who had been saying that?
It was God? Baby, God wants y'all to be this homophobic? This transphobic? But I thought God loved everybody. Somebody not doing the math right. So as a young woman, being curious about things, and then even feeling shame for the desires I had, obviously any sexual desires, and thinking about my sensuality. And it led to me feeling very isolated, because of course I didn't feel as though I could talk about these things with anyone else. Because it was always in a way where, like, we can't discuss this quite in detail because, you're not married yet. Sex is strictly just for this part of your life. It's not for this. And it was never really any honest answer about why are things functioning the way that they are. I was not a rebellious kid. And I'll even take it a step further. Baby, I was a goody two-shoes, okay? I followed the rules because I knew inherently that as, a young black girl being in a white space, that I had to be 10 times better. So essentially my upbringing in church and going to school and all these things led to a lot of isolation and a lot of untapped curiosity and a lot of pushing down of what I naturally felt. So now we're going to get into what the major part of this video is going to be, is my radicalization journey, and then, of course, my introduction to the Black radical tradition. I became radicalized in the era of the George Floyd rebellion, but also when it came to Oluwatoyin Salau. I'm becoming more aware of what it means to be in a black body. I'm becoming more aware of how race functions and has inevitably impacted me. I'm also thinking back to moments now as a kid, like, okay, ooh, that was definitely a little anti-black, or ooh, that was definitely homophobic, babes. The things I experienced as a kid are now essentially rearing their heads again as I'm trying to reconcile with the way the state is brutalizing and killing people that look like me in such a way that it's kind of forcing me to kind of really think about my blackness, about my black womanhood, and how are my politics going to inform that moving forward. So around this time is also when I started hearing about defunding the police. So now I was like, okay, defund the police. Like, obviously the police are responsible for these murders and for the brutalizations of black people. So yes, we should defund them. But then I was like, that's not far enough. I went from wanting to defund the police to briefly kind of thinking about reforming the police as possible, then getting to a point and then realizing the police have to be abolished as a whole. And this was also the first time I was really starting to engage with the aspect of abolition, but it was only when it came to the police. I was not quite to the point, obviously, where I was thinking about abolition of the state and all these oppressive systems and all these hierarchical power structures that harm us. Now, I feel like what is particularly interesting about my journey to being radicalized is how it happened simultaneously as my quote-unquote healing journey. This is around the time I was working on my first EP, which a lot of it was about healing. Like I mentioned, I was also making videos about how Toyin's murder affected me. I was also making videos about, like, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement and how, you know, police brutality and kind of understanding how the police functions, how these things were affecting me as well. Also understanding that there is this danger that is always lurking when you are in a black body. And then I'm also, when I think about Toyin, I'm thinking about black womanhood, and then for the first time I'm kind of realizing, okay, we're talking about George Floyd, we're talking about Ahmaud Arbery, we're talking about the murder of black men, but there seems to be, of course, this erasure of black women and black femmes in this conversation. Because once I'm realizing that my anti-blackness, it's not just a thing that's unique to me. Anti-blackness is what fuels other forms of oppression. I'm deconstructing also my relationship with organized religion, with Christianity. The colonizer had this ability to craft a religion that functioned in a hierarchical way where, like, you put God first, and if you don't obey God, don't obey that authority, then that means that you're wrong. So therefore, because the slave master is the authority in your life, you bucking against me is you going against his religion if you claim to be a Christian. Me following God's plan for my life, or me following exactly what the Bible says, you know, it was forcing me to live my life in a way where I'm just trying to follow somebody else's rules, somebody else's ideals. When I think about, in general, how I got to where I am now, so many things were primed in my life for me to end up being a liberal, because that was literally the upbringing I had, you know, like always being encouraged to vote, to participate in electoral politics, right? Black people are the ones under attack, so what if black people are now the ones in power, right? So I'm in my black capitalist era, I'm all about the black dollar, I'm about, you know what I'm saying, listen, I'm gonna spend my money with my niggas, you feel me, because that's gonna save us, right? I thought black capitalism, baby, I thought that was going to ease down. I'm thinking, like, you know what, we had a black president, we need more black people in power, okay, because that's how we're going to be free. And no. And I also want to show you guys some of the books that helped radicalize me. This is where we get to my introduction of the Black radical tradition. And this part of my journey is critical because my introduction to the Black radical tradition was my window to Black anarchism. This right here, when I tell you, turned my world completely upside down. To be honest with you guys, after I graduated from high school, as somebody who had always been an avid reader, I became very disconnected from reading as well, because a lot of the literature that I was reading in school was all white people. But I'm so glad that I eventually got back into reading, because I realized my politics are radically shifting and changing, and there are certain terms I'm hearing. I'm interested in abolition and things like that. I need to get to the root cause of why things are the way they are. The writing of Black women that truly shaped my politics when it comes to Black feminism, and when it comes to, you know, former women that were Black Panthers. Like, this is where the basis for a lot of my political education was coming from. So of course that means I was reading a lot of Angela Davis and things of that sort. And another book as well that truly made me really think deeper about how much emotionally went into the Black Power movement of the 60s and 70s, you know, is My People Are Rising by Aaron Dixon. I was a major Black Panther Party researcher. When I was introduced to Black anarchism, there was a whole other part of the Black radical tradition that I had not yet discovered. finding out that people like Lorenzo Kambura Irvin and people like Kawasi Palagoon were former Panthers. I'm like, girl, hold on. You're not finna tell me somebody, a Black Panther Party stands down, that there are former Black Panthers that were instrumental in the forming of Black anarchist ideology and theory. And in the time leading up to me being introduced to Black anarchism, the resources and things I was reading, or the people I would normally look to for political guidance, you know, I'm thinking about like how queer people and trans people and disabled people are affected by the system. Thinking about all these things, my normal go-tos help exercise or expand my ideas weren't getting me there. Like, they weren't helping me. It was getting to a point I was actually going beyond some of the elders, the Black elders from the Black liberation movement that I learned from. I was now going beyond whatever was being discussed in the text they had written. One of the reasons why I never quite took to, like, you know, a state socialism or like a Marxist-Leninism ideology is because I'm now realizing like the state itself is inherently harmful. And if there's anything I don't want to do, it is to replicate those same systems of harm in any new world I seek to build or to be a part of. Anybody that is in control of state power will inevitably perpetrate that same type of harm. It doesn't matter if, you know, somebody has really good intentions or you just have a really pure heart and you're thinking like, you know, but once I'm in charge of the thing that's inherently harmful, I'm gonna make it better. I'm just like, well, no, because if we follow that line of thinking, that would mean that one good police officer could change the entire culture of what it means to be in a police department. But it doesn't, right? We have to recognize that something that was designed to oppress people, something that is designed to only protect 1% of people, that is how it's going to function no matter who is in charge of it. Even if you put somebody who has experienced oppression in that position of power, because it is designed to oppress, it is designed to kill, it is designed to keep some people out, that is inevitably what's going to happen no matter how you shape it. Finding out about the history, you know, of Black anarchism, you know, because Black anarchism, it's a critique of classical anarchism. Now I'm thinking about like, this is what I've been missing. And then obviously learning about Martin Sostre. And oh my goodness, do not even get me started on Martin Sostre. I could literally talk about him forever. The Black radical tradition, you know, is so expansive. The way that anarchism was always presented to me growing up, you know, my first thought when I hear the word anarchy in general, baby, I'm thinking of Sons of Anarchy. So I'm automatically, you know, doing the whole, baby, ain't that white people shit? Like, what you talking about? Like, Black people don't do no anarchism. Learning about Black anarchism and then getting into classical anarchism later, it was the first time I seriously looked at how hierarchy itself can be very harmful. Me coming to anarchism at the time that I did was critical because I really started thinking about all my politics as a practice. It wasn't just something I like to say to sound good or to be on the right side of things. I was like, these are things that I have to practice in my daily life. If you were to ask me what Black anarchism means to me, I would tell you this. Black anarchism is a practice that compels me to apply autonomy everywhere in my life. As an artist, it challenges me to create music that is not bound by rules or a formula. As a writer, it requires me to constantly ask the other question, even if it's uncomfortable. As a member of a collective, it implores me to use my gifts and skills in a way that not only can liberate me, but others as well. Black anarchism gives me no choice but to think beyond the confines of the colonizer's boxes and define for myself not only who I am, but who I will and who I must become in order to get free. Black anarchism has shown me that my resistance is a thing of beauty that refuses to be crushed by those that seek comfortability and conforming. It made sense how it came to a point in my life I'm realizing these boxes, they could never contain the fullness of who I'm meant to be as a person. They could never contain the fullness and the vastness and the depth of our humanity. And the thing about hierarchy is that in a lot of ways, it's comfortable, right? It's comfortable to know that there is a leader, that you just have to follow them, that you just have to listen to them, and everything will be all right. It's kind of comfortable to know that, like, as long as you follow the rules and you follow the law and you stay in line, that everything's going to be okay. But I think when you're in a Black body, when you are disabled, when you are queer, when you are marginalized, oppressed, working class, you're realizing, like, no matter how much I try to fit, no matter how much I try to do things a certain way or follow things to a T, they can still kill me. What if me completely letting go of these binaries? What if not conforming at all is the answer? And oftentimes when it comes to anarchism, it's just seen as disorder and chaos. Thanks a lot, Hobbes, for that. It doesn't allow people to actually think for a second, hey, what if we were allowed to govern ourselves the way we see fit? I believe that the people can govern themselves. I believe that we are able to govern ourselves in a way that is, true to us, and that when harm arises, when conflict arises, we can address it. But I don't think that we need leaders. I don't think that we need presidents. I don't think that we need representatives to decide for ourselves how we wish to live. The minute you come into this world, the minute you're born, that is your right. You have a right to exist exactly as you are. So the fact that if someone has to give you rights, that means that inevitably they can take it away. It's not because the state says, oh, you meet this requirement, or you work enough, or you work hard enough. No, because you are a human being, because you exist, that is enough, and you deserve to live a life where you are taken care of and where you are seen and you're not disregarded. You are meant to live a life that's not constantly under attack. You are meant to live a life where you are allowed to be freely who you are. And if you were to ask me what anarchism means, I would say anarchy is about existing boldly outside the margins the oppressor has put us in. The anarchist does not ask for acceptance, affirmation, or approval of their autonomy from anyone or anything that seeks to confine them. Anarchism is not intended to be a one-size-fits-all. It simply allows for the fullness of the person practicing it to define for themselves what it means to be autonomous and ungovernable. Anarchism is a liberatory ideology that seeks to snatch the whip from the slave master's grip and burn down the proverbial plantation which is built on discrimination and domination. I think something that was incredibly helpful for me is becoming part of collectives where there was no leader. It was just a group of people that everyone has a say, everyone has a choice, everyone's opinion matters on something. It wasn't like just, somebody made a decision, makes an executive decision, and now we all follow suit. Anarchism also kind of compelled me to think of the ways in which I know growing up, I was always told I had leadership qualities. And I realized I get the most joy from being a part of movements, being a part of collectives, being part of communities. I like being a part of things that are bigger than I am because, as Ashanti Austin would say, there are no big revolutions, right? There are only small revolutions that are by the people and for the people. I feel like there is so much that cannot be contained about us. And I feel like when you try to contain the fullness of that humanity into a certain box or trying to make it fit a certain way, it's always going to be outside the bounds. And if there's anything that we know about colonization, it's just that our oppressors had the authority to create these rules and boxes for us, and they were never meant for us to fit into in the first place. They were meant to be broken, they were meant to be thought outside of, they were meant to be critiqued, and they were meant to be abolished. So ultimately, after watching this video, I hope that it intrigued you, made you want to stay and learn more about anarchism and also more about the history of Black anarchism. I hope that this channel will be something that is very accessible. I hope that it makes radical ideas not as daunting. I always want to break things down in a way where it's easily accessible and understandable for anybody. So with this being a new channel, a new niche, a new vibe,
A new style, a new haircut, a new cut, a new color.
I don't have an official outro, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I appreciate you guys. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can get notified when I post next, and follow me wherever you can follow me in these internet streets, and I will see you next time with another video.
It's not the destination.